of this project. Really, I didn't put a whole lot of time into the tear down or anything like that. I was just more or less messing around with it. But the issue that I have run into is that the old gasket on the stator cover has been adhered pretty well. I mean, it's on there like glue. In the previous segment there, when I was wearing a different shirt, I was trying to chip away a little bit to see what I was up against, and I'll tell you what, by the time I finally got all of the gasket off, my hand would be destroyed. So what I've decided to do is use an old trick called a die grinder. So I'm going to go ahead and just very lightly sand off the old gasket, because I believe this will be the fastest, most effective way to do it. So hopefully everything goes well and I don't wear myself out completely, but I'll include in this clip just how I do it. I'm going to go ahead and hang on to the stator cover with my hook, and then use my right hand and just lightly sand away the gasket material. So here we go. So one thing I should probably add in here is safety, safety, safety. Just like you got two hands, you got two eyes, but trust me when I say life is better with both. So anytime you're doing anything with a die grinder or an angle grinder or anything like that, make sure you wear the proper face protection. With the die grinder, I typically just stick with safety glasses because there usually aren't too big of pieces that could hurt you too bad, but when you're using something like an angle grinder that spins really fast and has big chunks that could break away and hit you in the face, you want to be wearing a full face shield. But for this project, I'm just going to be using the safety glasses here. So here's the cover. As you can see, I've gotten a small section of the gasket material away, but this took me like 20 minutes alone, and I even chipped into the casting a little bit. So I honestly think my hand is going to be a little bit more stable, and I'm going to be more effective by using this die grinder. So here we go. All right, there we go. Obviously, I have some cleaning up to do, but that'll be just a quick blast of some brake cleaner and it'll all be good. And then when my gasket comes in, I'll be able to slap this back on and hopefully she seals. All right, looks like it's all clean. Next thing to do is get the gasket in the mail, and then I'll have to silicone the area around the stator wire right here where the grommet goes through. I'll put a little silicone on that and let that cure before I put the gasket on, because I feel like it may have been leaking a little bit around that area. So just to be double sure, I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of silicone right there. But other than that, just waiting on a gasket now. All right, so there we go. Hopefully that will cure in there real nice and it'll be even to the gasket surface. So once that dries all up, should be good to put the gasket on and seal this thing up good this time. All right, so back working on the CBR, day 3. Finally got the gasket in for it. This had like a 2 to 3 week lead time because it had to come from Japan. So I finally got the gasket in, and I'm going to install my stator cover today. Now there's going to be some tricky things for me to be doing as one hand. One of them being that this stator will magnetize against the flywheel and suck itself to the bike. So trying to stabilize that and get the holes to line up is going to be a bit of a challenge for me. So I've never done it before, honestly, so I don't even know how it would go with 2 hands, but I'm sure after taking it off with 1 hand, it's going to be a real treat putting it back on and getting things lined up right. So as you'll notice, the area where this grommet and wire go through the stator cover, I tried to seal it up as you saw in that last clip, but it just, I didn't like it. So this time around, I've watched a couple videos while I waited on the gasket, and I'm going to put some Permatex gasket maker right in this groove right here, and then put it all together and let it cure overnight, and then check and see if I solved the problem. So first things first, I got everything cleaned up over here. This surface is all clean. This area is all clean. I got any dirt or debris out of there. And then I had to clean this up. As you saw, I used kind of an unorthodox method earlier to clean the gasket material off, but it was honestly the best way that I could think to do it without gouging the crap out of this cover with like a razor blade or something like that. So what I didn't realize in the earlier clips is that this plug comes undone, and the wire was literally right on the other side of this, and somehow I missed that. Like, that would have made things a whole lot easier for me. I could have actually put this cover in the vise or something like that and peeled the gasket off that way instead of leaving it on the bike. Didn't realize it was so easy to get this thing unplugged, and that's going to make the reassembly a lot easier too. I'm actually planning on leaving it unplugged until the Permatex dries. So just a little side note, but I looked up the torque spec for everything. So basically now all I've got to do is put the Permatex in around that grommet, put the gasket on, and slap this thing together. So here we go. So in order to put the gasket sealer on, I bought a brand new tube of gasket maker. And one of the things, if you've never used this, is if you look, see how the end is sealed up? And then the end of this has that little, there we go, that little nipple in there. That's so you can break this seal. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting if I showed you guys. I've never tried this before, but so my idea is that if I hold it in my hook and then kind of press with my thumb, there you go. That easy. So I learned something new today. That'll work for me. So all I've got to do is just put a little bit of this around that grommet. So here is the finished product. Of course, the grommet wants to pop out because it's going to be a pain like that. But as you can see, I just kind of smeared the gasket material in there. I'll pop the grommet back in, and now I'm going to put the gasket on. And then one other thing I forgot to mention is there's a spot right here where there's a parting line between the two cases that you need to smear just a little bit of gasket maker. I mean, just ever so slightly. Over that to help that seal up a little bit, because you know you have a drip edge. So now she is ready to go to her hopefully permanent, leak-free, forever home. And it didn't, so try again. See, this is where it would be easier if I had two hands, because I basically need to hold that wire in just the right position to keep the grommet from popping out of its position. But basically I'm just gonna have to get this all in one try, just bam, and hope it all lines up right. So that's kind of the tricky part here, because as soon as I tip this thing down, that wire wants to do funny stuff. And I honestly have no idea what to do about it. I'm gonna have gasket maker all over this thing by the time I'm done. All right, so all I'm doing is, oh my God, there's oil all over the damn gasket now. Which is precisely what you don't want to have happen. Because then that'll create a non-sealing surface and it will leak like a sieve. So I'm gonna have to try to do something about that. Okay, so I think I got it after all of that trial and error. So it's obviously a little tricky trying to get it to, basically you have to get everything to line up without the gasket falling off and then get it to snap in place all in one fell swoop. Real tricky if you don't have two hands, but as you can see, it can be done. So now it's time to put the screws back in, and I'm going to torque everything in kind of a star pattern at 10 foot-pounds and then 16 foot-pounds, which I believe is the torque spec it calls for. That's what I found on the internet. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so all I was doing was using this socket and extension just to get everything started and snug. And now I'm going to go around and use my torque wrench, which is in inch-pounds. So I had to do the conversion. It's like 150 inch-pounds for 10 foot-pounds and 192 inch-pounds for 16 foot-pounds. So I'm going to set this and go through, like I said, in a star pattern and torque this down to the first spec and then hit it at the full torque spec. And then I'm going to go through and clean up all the excess Permatex that is smeared all over this mess from trying to get that gasket on. So that'll be fun too. All right. So this, whoops. That ain't gonna work either. There we go. So I'm just, son of a gun, hanging on to the torque wrench with my hook while I get it to the setting I need. And it's going to take a while. So what I'm going to do is hold it between my knees. Try to move a little bit faster. Or not. Sometimes it's a little frustrating. Try this. Yeah, can't do it that way. Gotta do it this way. Okay, so I'm set to 150 inch-pounds now. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the cover on. I screwed up. That's why I've made a second clip here. 120 inch-pounds is what I meant to say, and I think I said like 150 and then 192. 120 was the final torque spec that I felt comfortable with on this, and even that feels pretty tight. So I'm going to leave it at 10 foot-pounds for now, and we'll see how that goes. But for those bolts, they're only like 4mm bolts, and I don't think they need to be torqued all the way to 16 foot-pounds, but who knows, I could be wrong. So I am going to let this sit overnight, and then I am going to fire it up and take it for a rip tomorrow and see what I've got. Hopefully the oil leak will be gone and I can actually get this thing sold. I've done a lot of thinking about it, and it's too dangerous for me to ride as it is because I'm clutching with my hook. And if something would happen, I mean, granted it could be at slow speeds, but still, I realized I was pretty much an idiot for buying this thing. And the other thing is, I don't really feel like putting the money into it to switch all the controls over to the right side and ride it that way. So I'll get back with you guys tomorrow and we'll see if it worked. All right, so I think I have the oil leak fixed. As you'll notice, I have my helmet on. I'm getting ready to go test ride it because that's when the bike seems to have the most problem with the oil leaking, is when I'm riding it at higher RPM. So last night I started it up and let it run for a good long time, got it up to operating temperature just to make sure there weren't any preliminary leaks or anything like that, and it passed with flying colors. No oil on the floor today. So I'm all geared up and I'm going to take it out for a ride. So there she sits, all ready to go, a little bit dirty. I got my jacket out. I'm going in full gear this time. No need to be stupid and risk it. When I'm riding with a hook on the bar, I'm pretty much steering with one hand only. So, gonna play it safe this time, take it up the road and back, make sure everything's good. If that goes well, I might go a little bit further just to make sure. Wish me luck. So far, so good. No leaks. All right, looks like we got a job well done here. Time to get this thing buttoned up and on to the next project. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so before I finish this video off, I ended up selling the bike a couple weeks after I finish up this project. There were a couple little odds and ends that I wanted to get buttoned up with it before I sold it. And I ended up degreasing the whole bike. I put it all back together, got it waxed up and looking real nice. I fixed some wiring issues. Somebody really hacked up the wiring with the lights under the tail section. Didn't have it fused, didn't have it switched, so I did all that. I should have recorded it, so I apologize for not doing that, but I didn't think it was worthy of making the video because it was really hard to shoot and work with those small wires at the same time. But I got all that stuff taken care of, and I went with what I had said earlier in the video. It just wasn't logical for me to have this bike. It wasn't logical for me to spend money on this bike, so I went ahead and got rid of it. So this next little clip is the new owner riding away with it. A dad and his son from the next town over decided to buy my bike. And I had started a little on the high end of the scale. They talked me down a little bit. I had front and rear stands for the bike that were going to come with it, as well as a helmet and a jacket, because for my Harley, I already have a helmet and a jacket and I don't need the extras. So they talked me down, and originally I was like, okay, well, I'll sell it at that price if I get to keep the stands, helmet, and jacket, which I would just sell separately. And the kid messaged me back and was like, hey, this is my first bike. Can I at least have the helmet? I was like, yeah, but if I ever catch you out riding without a helmet, I will kill you myself. Just kidding. I wouldn't actually kill him, but still, like, be safe out there, especially if this is your first bike. I mean, I don't think I said it anywhere in the videos, but it's a 2006 Honda F4i 600. So it's not the biggest bike out there, but it's still definitely fast enough to seriously injure or kill you. So I wanted this kid to be really safe, and this is a clip of him riding off on it for the first time. So enjoy, and we'll see you in the next video, guys.